The last time tariffs were implemented, the stock market crashed. That wasn't the only factor, of course, but it certainly didn't help. With globalization fully intact, the market demands maximum corporate profits, and quite frankly, jobs are not important. Shareholders do not care about sovereignty. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the states that will be hit hardest by tariffs. Let's begin with this. U.S. trade balance. You can see where it has gone, the trajectory that it is on at a decade low. And that is not a good sign. This is the financial crisis part 2. We are following the same patterns over and over again. This is a trend that has been going on for decades, and it isn't going to be changed anytime soon because none of the decisions that are being made are ever going to reverse this. There is always more spending, always more stimulus, always more TARP bailouts that are being suggested. Something needs to change. You cannot continue in a permanent deficit. This is not good because ultimately, in the end, you're going to have a problem with your creditors. You're going to have an issue when only your central bank is willing to buy up all your garbage. Eventually, people want to be paid back, and they don't want to be paid back with worthless confetti. Nobody's going to buy your debt, and then you have a big problem because the central bank, the Fed, will have to step in. Now, here is a similar chart you can just see for yourself, excluding petroleum, how it looks. But again, continuing the same issue from the financial crisis time frame up until today. Now, this might be a shocker to some. U.S. steel imports, top 10 sources, percent of volume. You can see that the top 10 makes up 78% of the total. Canada, top of the list, 16%. Brazil, so on, Mexico, and one interesting one was Russia. But you might notice somebody is missing from this list. Go around and you will not see it. China. China looks to be part of this rest of the world. So China is not part of this list. Yet, some suggest that these tariffs are in part trying to hurt countries like China and say, no, you can't do that. We'll make our own rules. This is how it's going to be. We're going to impose tariffs. Now, of course, steel is just one commodity, but let's just analyze this for a moment here. When you make these threats, when you make the claims, we need to find out why this is the case. What's happening here? So I'll show you. These are the top 5 states, but also you can see the 15 across in this chart here. Steel and aluminum tariffs hitting Louisiana, Connecticut, Missouri, Maryland, and Ohio. Steel and aluminum imports as a share of the total state imports. So the blue is iron ore and steel, red is aluminum. You could see, depending on the state, obviously it varies. However, Louisiana, right at the top of the list, but some other places like Ohio, for example, have a lot of iron and steel that they deal with. So this is interesting that these will be the ones that are supposedly going to be hit hardest should this occur. This information is coming out of Deutsche Bank, and of course, I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but we can take the example from the previous times. We can see how the markets will react. We can definitely see that globally, the mainstream media is negative to it. We can see that the governments are negative to this. They want globalization. They want the markets to be open. They want to erase borders. And, you know, it might have a negative impact, and that's a fact. But there's a reason why this is being done. I understand it. Like, I can see both sides of the equation here, and I'm just bringing out the information. That's all. Now we're going to look at this for a moment here. Steel sector employment. This is showing you from the late 90s and onward. I mean, clearly manufacturing, clearly a lot of these type of jobs are on a decline. And it's not, this has been happening, over the last year and a half, over the last 8 years. No, this has been going on for now a couple decades. So we need to really understand where this is all going. Manufacturing and this type of environment it's just gone. That's trying to be changed, but ultimately the labor is so cheap. The manufacturing process is so cheap in many of these developing nations that it's not worth producing a lot of this in Western countries. And that's what's been happening. That's just a trend. And I'm just pointing that out. It would be nice to have manufacturing. That would make a really good base for the middle class. So now I want to switch over to China. China's industrial production is turning very sour right here. This is the year-over-year change showing you where it's gone, clearly on a downtrend, and that is not good. If we look back to where it was, financial crisis time frame, after the so-called recovery, down ever since. Industrial production. We've been told that everything is fine. We've been told that there's been buildings being built everywhere. Everything is great. But it's not really the case. By the way, the dark blue line is industrial production, and the lighter line, if you could see that, it is China's exports. So understand that what happens in China, yes, there are more people moving from the rural areas into the cities. That brings a lot more demand on those in the rural areas. More agriculture is needed, fewer people doing it. You have more demand for, all these different commodities. People are living in the cities. That means more high-rise towers. That means more infrastructure along the way. That means more industrial metals that are needed, more commodities that are needed all along the way. But other countries that they are exporting to, you have to remember about that as well. Because when you can see these other countries, whether it's US or whatever, if they're in a recession, that's going to affect China because now they have less reason to export. Of course, all of these different weaknesses and strengths in the different currencies are a problem as well. So remember all sides of the equation. Look at a particular country. If you see something happening, look to another country or their main exports where they're going. Are they encountering any issues? What about the exchange rate at this time? Has it changed in the last few months, in the last few years? How is that all interconnected? Okay, that's just a little bit of information I wanted to give to everybody. China retail sales, we're told, it's rebalancing. That doesn't seem to be the case. Again, financial crisis time frame. If China is transitioning to a consumer economy, then why are retail sales slumping back to growth rates equivalent to the 1990s? It is obvious that retail sales grew fastest when industry did. That's something very interesting. Very interesting. The same could be said about the US. We're being told everything's fine now. Not really the case. All right. China's fixed asset investment. All of this stimulus. And what did it do? As they say right here, big stimulus bump to start in 16. What did it accomplish? Nothing. You can only temporarily cover up the holes. But ultimately, if there's a leak, it will present itself. All of these cracks are appearing. And they keep pumping the stimulus, keep pumping the stimulus. It has a temporary effect only. You cannot ever fix these problems without turning the ship around entirely. It's not possible. You have to repair the damage. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel. So I really do appreciate this very much. We are now over 92,000 subscribers, growing fast. We want to hit that 100,000 mark. So please hit the subscribe button and join everyone else on here. I do videos every single day covering information that most do not. So you can get that on here. All you got to do is click the subscribe button and join me. If you found the video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. If you go to the link in the description, that will take you to Amazon. They have a look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. Take care.